Alrighty. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Is anybody here other than me? Time to Caesar Shimaringa? Just out of curiosity. Just wondering. Ooh, who that is? Hey, James. How are you doing? Greetings, Serena. How are you? Greetings, Arthur. Greetings, Manny. Okay, my bad. Y'all coming. Y'all was waiting to see if I was going to show up, huh? Y'all here. All right. What's up, Manny Nile? What's up, the Jamon M? What's up, Sugar Shan? What's up, Rouse Pasta Sauce? What's up, Ito Etta? It's been a while, I know y'all forgot what I look like, huh? Forgot what I sound like? Forgot I even existed. I know. It's been rough, but I'm here today. I hope y'all are doing well. Hey, Baba Zaid Muhammad. Hey, Jay Curvo. Hey, Ngonyama. Hey, all of y'all. I'm gonna get to y'all in a second. Usually I start on time and I end up having technical difficulties. So today I started late. Let's hope it ain't no technical difficulties. But anyway, greetings again. How y'all doing? My name is Tanda Cesar Shimaringa, and this is Rootwork. Finally, Rootwork in November. I hope y'all are doing well. I hope you have been enjoying and supporting Black Power Media, telling people to subscribe. I hope you've been liking, sharing the videos. I noticed that for this particular video, 23 people had liked it before it even started. I appreciate the hell out of that. So please continue to like, continue to share, continue to subscribe. I see a bunch of y'all. I'm gonna get to y'all. I promise. I'm gonna get to y'all. You were just what you say, Manny Nile? I was just thinking about you. Wondering if you were coming back. Yeah. Oh man, there's so much been going on. I don't even know where to start, but I can start with this. See there? Technical difficulties. Can y'all see my book? Some of Us Are Brave. This is one of the things that I have been working on. One of the reasons why I had to take a hiatus after August. This is volume 1 from Daraja Press. It is out now. DarajaPress.com. Some of Us Are Brave. Volume 1. Some of the interviews that I have done over the years. Volume 2 is dropping in January. And if I'm lucky, I have another book coming out in December. Don't want to announce that just yet. We'll be coming back on to Black Power Media to talk about that in a couple of weeks or so. But these are the things that I've been dealing with, and I've also been in school. That's a whole nother trip. But that's one of the reasons why I have not been here with y'all. So, today's show, before I get started, I've already told you like, subscribe, share. I'm going to remind you like, subscribe, share. I want to send a massive shout out to the awesome OJ Tades, Yalogun, and Balogun. I want to tell them Modupe Pupo because they allowed me to broadcast in their time slot on October 22nd. We were hoping to live broadcast the memorial of our brother, friend, and comrade G2 Sadiki. Once again, technical difficulties. The audio was transmitted. For whatever reason, the video was not. I could see the video back here behind the scenes, so I saw what was going on, but for whatever reason, it didn't transmit to you all. We are waiting on that video to be edited. Once that's done, we will upload it in its entirety. And even though it ain't live, even though it's already happened, you will get to see the video of the memorial. A lot of heavy hitters were in the room. Members of the San Quentin Six, members of the Black Panther Party, etc., paying homage to our brother, friend, and comrade G2 Sadiki, member of Black August, a co-creator of Black August in San Quentin Prison, who made his transition to the ancestral realm in September. So again, I want to shout out to the awesome Ojatades who allowed me to broadcast during their time slot, even though it didn't come through. Thank you so much, Iya and Baba, for letting me do that. Got to send a shout out to Dr. Jab, Dr. Jared A. Ball, for allowing me to borrow his idea for today's show. He talked about the fact that he was scheduled to give a presentation at the, I believe it was the American Studies Association meeting in Canada. I believe it was Montreal a few weeks ago. But the panel got canceled and everybody went out to protest in solidarity with the Palestinian people. So he didn't get a chance to present that presentation there, but he came on here on Black Power Media and gave his presentation. I was like, oh, I think I'm going to do that. So that's what today's presentation is. So you have to forgive me if I'm not making eye contact with y'all. I'm doing some reading over here. This is a presentation, or what I would like to say is a discussion. I was scheduled to give it at the inaugural symposium of the Black Women's Studies Association, BWSA, which was October 22nd and 21st and 22nd, but I was unable to attend. I first gave this presentation last year in 2022. It was entitled Black Women's Responses to Harm and Violence within Movements for Black Liberation. And I presented it last year at the National Conference for Black Studies 46th Annual Conference. It was entitled Our Sisters Spoke Up, Women, Gender, and Sexuality in Africana Studies, in honor of Bertha Maxwell Roddy, co-founder and first president of the National Conference for Black Studies. I figured, oh, this is the moment I've been waiting for. Let me just pop in here and throw this out here and see what happens. So this is a work in progress. I do hope to go deeper and expand upon it, but I also have these other projects that I'm working on, like the books I mentioned. So we're going to see what happens. So Black women's responses to harm and or violence within Black liberation movements. Now, the Black liberation organizations I discuss are the ANC, the PAC, the African Nationalist Congress, Pan-Africanist Congress of Azania, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, Black Panther Party / BLA, the US Organization, the All African People's Revolutionary Party, and the All African Women's Revolutionary Union, the Nation of Islam, the Black Youth Project, and the East. At the moment, I do not have any information on CAP, the Congress of African People, NAPO, New African Peoples Organization, or MXGM, Malcolm X Grassroots Movement, the APSP, African People's Socialist Party, or ANWO, African National Women's Organization. And this discussion is based on publicly available sources. I want to stress that. Publicly available sources. It's for discussion. I have not gone deep as I could. And as of this moment, I've only had one interview, and that is with Mbahati Kaumba, formerly of the All African People's Revolutionary Party and the All African Women's Revolutionary Union. She is now a professor at Spelman College and the co-director of the Women's Research and Resource Center at Spelman College. So again, this is based on publicly available sources, and I'm going to be able to share my screen and show y'all a couple of things. So let me start with the impetus behind this project, how it started for me. Let's see here. It was just there. It was there a minute ago. Hold on, y'all. No, seriously, for real. It really was just here. It really was. It was just here. I don't know why it ain't here no more. That's not it. But it was just here. I would much rather not read. There we go. Woo! Not read to y'all. I would much rather. The browser can't access my screen. Why you can't access my screen? Huh. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. So, hmm, hmm. So, as I was saying, I really don't want to just be up here reading to y'all, running my mouth, but it looks like I'm going to have to. Maybe. I don't know. Let's see. Let's see. I don't know how big this is for y'all. Y'all let me know. If you can see this, is there any way? Nope. All right. No problem. I'm not supposed to be over here on the side. What are you doing? All right. The impetus for my inquiry into this subject. This is from the 27 October 2017 issue of the Mail and Guardian. I don't remember if I read it in 2017 or if I came across it years later, but the date is October 27, 2017. This is the Mail and Guardian, which is published in Zambia. This is an article by a man by the name of Carl Collison. Women freedom fighters tell of sexual abuse in camps. It has been just over 4 decades since the day Sibongile Kumalo placed the note on her mother's old grandma phone. By the time you read this, I will be out of this country. 41 years after the day she left her mother's house and Soweto to go into exile as a freedom fighter, only now is she finally ready to speak of her experience, a journey she refers to as one littered with unprecedented pain. At 15 years old, she was sent on to Tanzania for military training under the Azanian People's Liberation Army, the military wing of the Pan African Congress's PAC. She was a baby, she rightfully says, still a baby, and not long before she came face to face with the ultimate violation. I thought I would take this to my grave, she says, but my real trouble started when I met Pulako Lovalo, then PAC president. There was a roster for the women soldiers to clean his house. Little did I know that some of these women were being abused. I became one of them. He forced himself on me. He was an old man even then. Let's see here. Sibongile Kumalo. Let me see here. Reading from the same article. I was hoping it would be a lot bigger, but okay. This is Tanjiwe Mtinso, currently the South African ambassador to Malawi. She recalls her experiences as one of the few MK commanders, MK, the Mkhonto weSizwe, military arm of the ANC, Azanian National Congress. She says, we were like a rare species. We were like a rare species for the fact that we chose to join MK because patriarchy didn't expect us to join the armed struggle in general. We were really protected, but on the other hand, even those who are protecting you would, put themselves forward as possibilities. Although she said she knows of very few women during her time in the camps who reported sexual violence. She says that one man threatened to rape her. I felt really in danger, but when he threatened to do it, I just said to him, "You're not going to do it because I'm going to shoot you." It's as simple as that. I'm just going to shoot you. Because I was in a senior position, I was carrying a pistol instead of an AK-47. It would have been much easier for me to shoot him that way. She says he retreated, but right through her stay in the camp, he kept saying, "One day I will get you." So there was always this threat hanging over me. Let's see here. So this is her now, approximately in her 70s. Now, this one right here is going to be very interesting. Okie dokie. Nelson Mandela's stepdaughter blinded in one eye after domestic assault. Josina Michel, the daughter of Gracia Machel and ex-Mozambican President Samora Machel. As we know, Brother Samora Machel was assassinated by the forces of imperialism. Samora Machel, the widow, eventually married Nelson Mandela, who had split from Winnie. Another BPM show for another day. So this is Nelson Mandela's stepdaughter. And she was attacked during a birthday party for Gracia Machel's, a party for Gracia Machel's 70th birthday. This is her here, Nelson Mandela, and I believe that's Tony Blair. I'm not sure who that is. Let's see. And I believe, hold on. This is a closer picture of her now. As you can see, her right eye is no more. Now, this article that I was referring to from The Guardian, 17 November 2015. Again, I don't think I read this in 2015. I think I just came across it later on. But this one was written by Simon Allison in Johannesburg. Josina Michel, the daughter of Gracia Machel and ex-Mozambican President Zamora Machel, at the time the wife of Nelson Mandela. She reveals her boyfriend attacked her during the mother's 70th birthday, left her blind in one eye. The incident occurred in Maputo, the Mozambican capital, on 17 October. Justina Michel and her boyfriend argued after Josina said she wanted to spend the night in the family home. After insulting her, he punched her repeatedly in the face, she told South Africa's City Press newspaper. As she has started legal proceedings, this was in 2015. As she has started legal proceedings, the boyfriend cannot be named, although he is understood to be well known and politically connected. In another point of the article, she states her pain is just hold on. Her pain is just I'm not sure what that means. She felt inspired to share her story. She said, I also felt that not standing up in this fight will be an indictment on the legacy of my parents. Madiba, Papa Madiba Nelson Mandela has always defended women's rights, and my mom is the epitome of the significance of fights against injustice against women. So at this point, I have no right to be quiet and not to stand up. So reading these articles made me want to take a look at what was going on within liberation movements here in the US. And let me just state real quick. Josina Michel. This is going to sound elitist, and there's nothing I can do about that. It is what it is. I apologize if it sounds elitist. It's not my intention, but here we go. So this is the daughter of freedom fighters, Samora Machel, Gracia Machel, Mozambican freedom fighters, who then becomes the stepdaughter of Nelson Mandela. This violence and brutality, no human being deserves violence and brutality. No woman deserves violence and brutality. But if the daughter of freedom fighters is not protected, well, my God, what does that mean for everyday sisters? If she cannot escape this madness, what does this mean for everyday sisters? So, let's see here. Thank goodness this thing goes out and lets me zoom back in. All right. So we're going to start with Gwendolyn Zohara Simmons from SNCC, the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee. And throughout this, what I'm doing here with y'all on Black Power Media, it wasn't that long in the conference because they don't play that. So I'm taking my time trying to expound as much. And of course, we're going to go to the chat and see what y'all have to say. What was I about to say? Gwendolyn Zohar. So SNCC. Why is SNCC considered to be, by me, a Black liberation organization? We get into this thing of, well, this is integrationist and this is nonviolent. The activities that these people participated in, they put their lives on the line and they were met with brutality, and yet they still continue to get up and fight every single day. We know in later years SNCC moved away from nonviolence. We also know that there was the introduction of Black power into SNCC. This is SNCC in the early point of its development, but I'm still going to include them. So Gwendolyn Zohara Simmons. This is from the essay Love with Accountability, A Mother's Lament and a Daughter's Postscript by Gwen Simmons and her daughter Aisha Shahida Simmons from October of 2016. She recounts this also in a book called Hands on the Freedom Plow, which talks about women in various organizations of the civil rights movement. And she also recounts this incident in Dan Berger's most recent book. And if Dan Berger is not watching, y'all don't tell Dan Berger, I done forgot the name of his book. State on Freedom. The Long History of Black Power Through One Family's Journey, looking at Black Power through the lives of Gwen Simmons, Michael, and Michael Simmons, her husband. So, but again, this is the first time where I saw her talk about this back in 2016. The most painful of all sexual assault attempts endured was from a fellow SNCC comrade who I had to fight off at the 1964 Mississippi Freedom Summer Project orientation in Oxford, Ohio. This was by someone I admired, but even more painful than the actual attempted rape by a SNCC comrade was when I reported him to a SNCC official. That SNCC official was James Foreman or Jim Foreman. Now, she never names who this person was who attempted to rape her. I asked Dan Berger if she gave up the info. He said no, she only stated that he has passed on. So I guess she's going to take that name to her grave. But at any rate, she reported to Jim Foreman at the time, who was in the leadership of SNCC. When I reported him to the SNCC official, I was told that SNCC leadership did not have time to deal with a trivial matter such as this. Adding insult to injury, I was told, "Why are you making such a fuss? You should have given him some." I cried myself to sleep that night, and a few nights after, I now had to add worry about being raped by a fellow comrade, in addition to dodging bullets from Klansmen and other white racists who would vote to kill all of us who are going to be in Mississippi that summer. So, as I'm looking at these incidents of harm, I'm looking at what are Black women doing about these incidents of harm. All right, so that's Gwen Simmons when she was a youngster. So this is from the book Hands on the Freedom Plow, which, as I said, this presentation was given last year before Dan Berger's book came out. So from Hands on the Freedom Plow, when she recounts this incident, on page 29 of that book, she says, as one of the few women, she became a project director at a certain point in Mississippi. As one of the few women project directors in the state, I was particularly sensitive to sexual harassment. One of my few non-negotiable demands was to disallow all forms of sexual harassment and declare all underage local women off limits to project males. There will be one warning and one warning only. If it happened again, out you went. Given the conservative nature of the community, and I will need to gain and maintain approval, I did insist on a dress code of no shorts in the streets and generally modest dress, since the church was such a strong and respected institution in the community. We all had to attend church regularly, generally with host families. Gender relations were difficult to say the least. Relationships among COFO volunteers, Congress of Federated Organizations, were permitted, but were to be carried out in a low-key way with no public displays of affection. We have to respect them more than the community, which was very strict in comparison to the lifestyles of most of the volunteers. As a Black Southerner, I was much more acquainted with these mores and therefore insisted that my insights on these matters be respected. Somehow during the summer, page 31, somehow during the summer, I acquired a reputation of being an Amazon, which means she don't take no shit, especially off of men. And my sexual harassment policy was converted to she hates men. But some of her male colleagues did support her. Now, this is from No, the Rape documentary by her daughter, Aisha Shahida Simmons. Aisha's film, No, the Rape documentary, looks at rape, intra-racial rape, not interracial rape, rape within the Black community. This is Gwen Zohara Simmons, the mother, speaking. She says, I made it a point on the project to say no to sexual abuse of any kind. It would not be tolerated. To my knowledge, it was the first project and possibly the only one, certainly during the Mississippi summer of 1964, that any project had such a rule. Everyone had to go through an orientation that included a segment on sexual abuse, what it was, and then when the woman said she didn't want to go out or certainly didn't want to have sex, there's no one who had better ever try to force her to do that. Uh-oh. Where am I? Oh, I don't know. Okay, so that's Gwen Zohara Simmons. That was her during her SNCC days. This is her today. I believe she lives and teaches in Florida. And again, the newest book is Mind State on Freedom by Dan Berger, which talks about Black power through the lens of the lives and works of Gwen Simmons and her husband, Michael Simmons. Now, The Promise of Patriarchy, Women in the Nation of Islam by Eula Yvette Taylor. This is one of those publicly available sources. First of all, let me talk about why the Nation of Islam is considered, I consider the Nation of Islam. The Nation of Islam is a religious organization. That's what they say about themselves. That's what they tell you. That's what everyone will tell you. But the Nation of Islam has well, first of all, how do we even meet Elijah Muhammad? He refuses the draft in World War II. He says, I'm not going to fight for you. He makes a stance against imperialism. So he may have done that on religious grounds, but those of us who on the political left love somebody who takes a stand against imperialism, whether it's conscientious objection or not. But at any rate, that's how we first meet Elijah Muhammad. The Nation of Islam has always stood for self-reliance, has always stood for doing for self, has always talked about Black people cleaning themselves up and having pride in themselves, even though they call themselves Asiatic. Another discussion for another day. They have always had this. They are never pretty much the aggressor, but believe wholeheartedly in self-defense. And again, the whole self-reliant, self-determining work ethic of the Nation of Islam, that's one of the reasons why they are our fave, even though they're problematic. So that's why I included it in here. So in the book, The Promise of Patriarchy, Eula Taylor, it gives some anecdotes from women members of the Nation of Islam about abuse and harm, but she does not go into specifics about the abuse or harm or what the women did to address the incidences. A lot of generalizations, nothing specific. So that aspect of the internal workings or lives of the Nation of Islam has yet to be divulged, in print at least, in a public source. Publicly available source. And again, we just up here conversating. We having a conversation, y'all. A Taste of Power, a Black Woman's Story by Elaine Brown. I know she's problematic. Another BPM story for another day. Elaine Brown appointed women to positions of leadership and declared those personnel decisions would not be questioned, along with developing what she describes as a feminist consciousness. Now, this is on page 368 of her book. She says, "It was with this attitude that I insisted on attending the disciplinary session I ordered for a brother who had blackened the eye of the sister with whom he was relating because she had not properly cooked his greens. It was with this attitude that I had Larry and Perkins accompany me to a meeting with my accusatory campaign opponent, in which we threatened him with bodily harm if he ever so much as spoke my name again in public. Before the campaign was over, it was this attitude that pushed me to lance a festering sore. I had not intended committing an act of vengeance. Despite my memory of the fists that had brutalized my body a few years before, there were larger issues involved when I ordered a brother by the name of Steve to Oakland." So she talks about the fact that once she got power, she went and beat a brother's ass who had put hands on her a few years earlier. So in addition to that, she put forth policies, she says, as during the time when she was chair of the Black Panther Party. I know some of y'all are chomping at the bit and can't wait to get up in here. Mama Safia Bukhari in The War Before. She's got an essay on the question of sexism within the Black Panther Party. On page 57, she begins by talking about the revolutionary moves made by the appointment of women and women doing the same things as men within the Black Panther Party. She also states, on the other hand, there were problems. Men who brought their sexist attitudes into the organization. Some of the men refused to take direction from women. We had a framework established to deal with that, but many times the framework was not used because of liberalism, cowardice, and fear. She does not state how people got around the liberalism, cowardice, or fear, or how they implemented the changes. She states further, it is extremely important that remember that even though the Black Panther Party had established a built-in process to deal with male chauvinism in its ranks, the members of the party were products of the society in which they lived. We struggled against those tendencies whenever possible, but they were reinforced by the larger society. On page 60, she talks about the Black Panther Party had put into place a mechanism for dealing with this, starting with political education and ending with bringing responsible parties up on disciplinary charges. She says we must not be afraid of allowing the old self, rife with the negativisms of this society, to die, so that a new, more revolutionary and progressive self can be born. Then and only then do we stand a chance of destroying this oppressive society. It is with this thought in mind that we use the weapon of criticism and self-criticism to correct the way we deal with each other. It is through study and practice that we strengthen our own self-esteem and gain the courage to challenge chauvinist and sexist attitudes we encounter as we struggle. Finally, it is through our social practice that we set the example to our community and advance the overall struggle. Safia Bukhari was always about the struggle, y'all. She also talks about, on page 50 of her book, a model for a people's court. She says, I recently engaged in such a dispute. Model that was used to resolve the dispute was a people's tribunal. The person bringing the charges put them on paper. The person the charges were brought against prepared a written response. These were disseminated to all parties involved. A date, time, and place were set for a hearing. Both sides were able to have witnesses present. An independent hearing, having no involvement in the dispute entrusted by both sides, were chosen. I think independent hearing officers, and an odd number, not less than 5, of jurists were chosen, also with no involvement in the charges. The hearing officer set the tone, laid out guidelines for the proceedings. Charges were read into the record, tape recorded. Person bringing the charges presented her point of view, followed by the reading of the written response to the charges. Next, the person bringing the charges called, questioned her witnesses. Person charged then questioned the witnesses, followed by questions from the hearing officers and jury panel. Witnesses were not allowed to ask questions. Their part in the proceeding was simply to be witnesses. Proceedings were handled the same way for the person being charged when she presented her witnesses. All the parties involved had agreed to abide by the decision of the court, and they did. It is only a model, it is not perfect, and it is possible that the resolution was accepted and the episode laid to rest for reasons other than the fact that the proceedings were handled in a principled manner. So again, we're talking about not only are we looking at incidents of harm and violence in Black liberation organizations, what was done to address the incidents of harm and violence. Now, Assata Shakur, I didn't go back to Assata's book, just simply drawing on my memory. I do not remember what she said regarding incidents within the BPP and the BLA in particular. I do know some of the general things that she has said. Shameless plug. Shameless plug. There you go. Shameless plug. A recording of an address that Assata Shakur gave in 1993 to the New African Women's Task Force. It is transcribed here in full, where she talks about the fact that if there are enough Black women still around from the 60s and 70s who were members of these organizations, she says if they ever get together and start telling their stories, it's going to be very interesting. Again, nothing in particular about the BPP or the BLA, but she also talks about the fact that Black women need to learn and become comfortable with their bodies, and they need to train, and they need to learn not how to panic, because if you are in control of your emotions and you know a little something, you can kick a brother's ass if you need to. These are her exact words, okay? Now, how y'all doing out there? Y'all all right? Because even though I'm trying to show you pictures, I'm running my mouth a lot. Like I said, I'm going to get to the chat. I'm going to get to y'all. I know y'all can't wait. This right here is a sister I know a lot of y'all don't know about her, because I didn't know about her, and I was right here in Los Angeles. She doesn't live in LA anymore, but her name is Kacheko Davis. Kacheko Davis was a founding member of the US organization. US does not stand for United Slaves. I know y'all don't like them. It does not stand for United Slaves. It stands for us as opposed to them. Another Black Power media story for another day. Anyway, this is part of, or should I say, Kacheko Davis gave an oral history interview to the Black Power Archives at California State University. Later, Deborah Jones, the woman whose memoir I am working on, I'm assisting her in the writing of her memoir. That is the other book that I told y'all about I'm working on. Deborah Jones is the woman who testified against Maulana Karenga in 1970 for torture and sexual assault, resulting in his conviction and his being sent to prison for a sentence of 1 to 10 years. He ended up getting out after 4. So Deborah says she heard the same story that Kacheko Davis talks about in her Black Power Archive interview. What is that story? The US organization had a sisters wing. Well, okay, the men in the organization were known as the Simbas. The women in the organization were known as the Mumininas, true believers. You know, Simbas means lions or young lions. The women were the Mumininas. At a certain point after the COINTELPRO war became heavy, a female paramilitary arm was developed within the US organization. It was called the Matamba. Kacheko was one of the first members of the Matamba. Deborah was also a member of the Matamba, but this is at different time periods. So this is the story that Kacheko Davis related in her oral history interview, the same story that Deborah Jones related to me. She says, I was told a story once, I forget by whom, about how some of the brothers thought that they could hit the sisters, slap them around. Well, they couldn't. It was three of them, three different men in the organization, all around the same time period, but not at the same time. Jomo, immediate Jomo Chambalier, who at one point was the head of security for the US organization, Jomo said he didn't know if the Matambas, lured those brothers into an alley or caught them in an alley. But the Matambas beat their asses in an alley. After the third ass whipping, Jomo called on the sister who was over the Matambas at that time and told her, we need a truce. I can't have you beating up my Simbas. The sister agreed. They couldn't have that happening, although she denied knowing who was behind it. The brothers learned their lesson, for the time being, that retaliation would be a preferred option, and the Matambas cooled out. It's only been 45 minutes? 12:45. How y'all doing over there? Ooh, I see y'all just chatting up a storm in the chat. I'm going to leave that alone until I can get to it proper. Hold on. Now, where that? Here we go. Gender and Social Movements by Mbahati Kuumba. Mbahati Kuumba, I don't know if I forget. I'll be running my mouth so much I forgot what I'm talking about. Mbahati Kuumba was a member of the All African People's Revolutionary Party and the All African Women's Revolutionary Union. I can't remember, or I do not have at my fingertips what year she was a member. You can find her on the internet. Go ask her. She is currently the associate director and a professor at Spelman College, associate director of the Women's Research and Resource Center. This is her book, Gender and Social Movements. Don't remember what year. Y'all look it up. In the book, she talks about the fact that the All African Women's Revolutionary Union was created as a vehicle to address the issues of patriarchy and sexism within, one of the reasons it was created, within the All African People's Revolutionary Union. But she also says that it didn't necessarily turn out in that way. So I interviewed her to see if I could get some more information, and this is what she said. Now remember, this is about Black women's responses to harm and violence. She says, I would say in terms of physical harm, there were rumors, meaning of one couple in particular I'm thinking about, and others had abusive situations, interpersonal situations like within relationships. And because the AAPRP's line was pretty much, that's your problem, I mean, definitely there wasn't a consciousness of the personal as political. There was more an issue of, we don't deal with any of that. That's not part of our purview in revolution. So, I think that, I just remember there were some sisters that attempted to intervene, like on an individual level. But I would say that the AAWRU, All African Women's Revolutionary Union, formation in 1980 was an institutionalized response in that it provided a mechanism to do political education around the woman question, or, the beginnings of looking at misogyny and patriarchy and having a race, class, gender analysis. But, and this is the part where I appreciate what Bahati had to bring to this discussion. For the most part, throughout my tenure, and I think afterwards, I think I saw a lot of the sisters leave over time because of some of the other harm. The harm of, how can I put it? The piece of being cannon fodder, of having to at the same time that we're critiquing normative gender roles and the role of women in revolution, we're still, the women still are over the young pioneers that take care of the children and are responsible for educating the party, educating the men in the party. And I think this is like the exact language that we would use on patriarchy. So that implies, it's your work meaning women's work. It was not our work, meaning the collective work of the organization, including men. So that kind of harm, and just the harm of not seeing people's personal situations as something that the party could deal with. I think the other thing, too, is just the exploitation of not only activist labor, but reproductive labor. And that, many of the couples that may have come into the party together, the sisters would often have disproportionate work with the offspring and the family, and therefore, on a personal level, be harmed and, and overburdened. And the partner or the father or the brother would be able to pretty much be free to do whatever, have a lot more a lot more ability to participate in the party's activities, as well as just have more freedom in general. And that would only be because of their labor being subsidized by the exploitation of the sisters in the party. This other part, yeah, okay, I'm gonna keep going. I think too, the other part of that, and often being really dogmatic and hardcore, which in some of my other stuff I talked about, that's kind of violence in devaluing people's emotions and feelings and all that. You just have to shut down in order to just do your work, and don't worry about whatever those other, whether you have had or haven't had psychological or interpersonal or relationships, that's on you. And that's another form of violence I see. With my students, they have kind of shifted, even though sometimes, the self-care thing can get a little irritating, but, at least they have that in mind, that they're not going to be burned out and beating each other up while we're trying to work together. My question to Bahati, are you sure that's not just being liberal, worrying about people's feelings and that kind of stuff? Her response, oh, no, no, I think that's revolutionary. I think that in terms of when we hear Che talk about revolution being fueled by love, which is an emotion, as opposed to hatred, which is an emotion, or anger, which is an emotion. And so my view, because things like emotions have been seen as feminine and invalid, we don't galvanize consciously appreciating emotions. Okay, that was a lot. All right. Continuing on. There's a film out now. If you haven't seen it, you really, 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 really ought to see it. It is called The Sun Rises in the East. And it is about an organization in Brooklyn, New York, called the East. One of the founders was a brother by the name of G2 Wayusi. There is a book on the East in terms of the school. As you can see, I haven't read the book. Can't even think of the name of the book. But the author's name is Kwasi, Kwasi, Konadu, Konadu. He's my publisher, and I don't know the name of his book. I just outed myself. That's bad. I'm just trying to keep it a buck with y'all, right? I'm just trying to be honest and transparent. Haven't read my publisher's book, but I know it exists. So I'm not sure. He basically talks about the children and the schooling there. Of course, he goes into the history of the East. This film is an excellent film on the East. It doesn't go into the harms that Black women may have or did suffer. However, interestingly enough, there is a section or a couple of moments where they talk about the decision made by the men of the organization to include polygamy. And I know this one sister they interviewed was like, oh man, look at the time for me to go. Got to get up out of here, yeah. And so at a certain point, there was struggles, and the policy of polygamy was put aside. But there's also a segment or a part in there where Brother Lumumba Bandele, who you should know, one of a longtime community organizer in New York, remember the Malcolm X grassroots movement, he says that in terms of those, he was a child coming up in these, he says in terms of the polygamous households, the children, and I'm paraphrasing because I don't remember his exact words, watch the film and you'll see his exact words. The children, it seems like the children received an extra dose of love and support, but he's not sure what that meant for the women who were in those relationships. All right, moving right along, moving right along. We coming to the end, coming to the end. Kind of, sort of coming to the end. So I talked earlier about the Nation of Islam and why I included it in here. This is an organization called the Black Youth Project 100, primarily located in the Chicago area. And the reason I included the Black Youth Project is because they have come on the scene in the wake of Ferguson and Black Lives Matter. And despite what has happened with the founders of Black Lives Matter, whether we're talking about right now or looking at the trajectory of the murder of Trayvon Martin, the murder of Mike Brown, coming to up till today, the potential of this movement and the numbers of young people in particular who were galvanized, who became involved, and who are still involved. Even just the fact of, you know what, we ain't with BLM no more. We doing our own thing under new names and what have you. So the chapter is still being written. The book, the movie is still being written on this new iteration of youth activism. Am I keeping hope alive? Maybe, who knows? I don't know. But I'm including them anyway. Okay. So this is their statement of November 28th, 2015. We have been made aware of a sexual assault allegation involving a BYP 100 leader. As an organization rooted in a Black queer feminist framework, we take reports of sexual assault extremely seriously. When this allegation came to our attention, we immediately embarked on our accountability process. We are committed to seeing it through. The BYP 100 member has been placed on a mandatory membership hiatus. BYP 100 has initiated a course of action involving both parties to assess next steps. Our next steps will be centered in a transformative and restorative justice process rooted in compassion, accountability, and a belief that no one is disposable. We ask that throughout this process, that no one resorts to victim blaming, conspiracy accusations, or any other defamation against the intentionally unnamed party. But in Wikipedia, he was identified as Malcolm London. In 2015, London was arrested for and targeted by and arrested by the Chicago Police Department for leading a protest. He was falsely accused of punching an officer, and after a night in Cook County Jail, all charges were dropped. At the height of his public visibility, London was called out for sexual assault by a woman he shared space with when he was 18 years old. Shortly after this call out, he entered into a 15-month-long community-led transformative justice process to make amends for the harm he caused her. Since then, London has been publicly accountable for sexual harm and remains very vocal about teaching young men and boys about consent, ending gender violence, and pursuing efforts to challenge performative and toxic masculinity. I forget, as of last year, that's when I wrote this. I don't know I don't know what Malcolm London been doing since then. The point was that this is what this youth-led organization said, this is how we are going to handle this situation. And the BYP 100, you can find them, you can ask them, can you tell us more about this process? Has anybody else acted up? What's going on, etc. So that is all that I have. Again, I don't have anything from the Congress of African People, New African Peoples Organization, Malcolm X Grassroots Movement, African People's Socialist Party, or African National Women's Organization. So what are the ways that Black women in particular have responded to harm and violence within these organizations? They have told leadership, they have become leadership, they have implemented processes with others, physical retaliation. What is missing from this equation? Black men are missing from this equation. Black men have to organize themselves around the issues of patriarchy and harm and violence, how it affects women, and how it affects themselves. Because as our beloved now ancestor Bell Hooks taught us, patriarchy is not only deadly for black women, it is deadly for black men also. I'm tired of running my mouth. All right. So, again, that was a presentation I gave last year, was supposed to give in October. Didn't give it. Said I'm going to do it here on Black Power Media. Shout out to Dr. Jab, Jared A. Ball. Dr. Jab, Jared A. Ball. I borrowed the idea from him. Do I need to tip on over to the comments now? Because I see there was a troll somewhere up in there. Peace, Tiny, and everybody. Peace. Real quick. Yes, some of us are brave. Some of us are brave. Interviews and conversations with Sisters on Life, Art, and Struggle, Volume 1. That is available from Daraja, D-A-R-A-J-A, darajapress.com. Independent press based in Canada. Soon to be available on Amazon.com. Now, let's see. Me too, Marley. You got the notification on Rootwork, but not on BPM? Really? Okay. Michael T., Community Control Now, Louisville. These stories must be told if we're ever going to defeat patriarchy inside and outside of the movement. Agreed. August 3rd Collective. How you doing? Freeland. That's why reading Stand Up, Struggle Forward is important. Sanyika Shakur essay on patriarchy is beautiful. Stand Up, Struggle Forward. Sanyika Shakur, Monster Cody, his last book. You need to get it. You need to get it and you need to read it. I believe we went over that. Maybe we need to go over it again. What you think, August 3rd Collective? We talked about that somewhat when we had Seema Lee speaking. When I had a conversation with Seema Lee. Yes, ghoulish, absolutely ghoulish. Hey, Baba Zaid Muhammad, my dear warrior queens and comrades, I'm so terribly sorry for this despicable behavior by some of our male comrades. Tandi, thank you for lifting this up. You are quite welcome. Daphne Brown, you know what? Yeah, Daphne, I know what. Don't even say it. I already know. We don't want to say anything that's going to be used against us later. Let's see. Don't say there was rape in the Nation of Islam too. Oh, Lord. I didn't say that there was rape in the Nation of Islam. I said harm and violence. I do not have, from this particular book, which, what was the name of it? The Promise of Patriarchy. Eula Taylor, who is one of our wonderful historians, basically looking at the question of, okay, now why are y'all going into the Nation of Islam? What is it that you see about this that you like? And, talking with various women over the years. Again, they don't go into specifics, and she doesn't, and neither do the women. And they don't go into specifics about how they dealt with the harm. But you can tell that something has happened and something rectified it, whatever that means. Again, the story on the inner workings of the Nation of Islam, women in the Nation of Islam, has yet to be told. Elijah was a corporal in the Detroit chapter of the UNIA. He brought a lot of UNIA structure to the NOI. He became a mess with women. Well, Universal Negro Improvement Association. I mean, there's a lineage where all of these organizations. What do we? I got to be careful of my anthropological terms. There's cross pollination between these various organizations. What's the brother's name? What's the brother's name? No, it was a Moore. Moore Science Temple. I forgot the guy's name. Moore Science Temple, Universal Negro Improvement Association, African Blood Brotherhood, Nation of Islam, 49th Staters, Revolutionary Action Movement, on and on and on. Cross-pollination, all of these folks, yeah. Even Huey's great legacy is marred by sexism. Elaine's book is must reading. There was a lot going on with the BPP. It's still being written. Do not take liberties with women. One of the rules of the BPP, which was also, I believe, a rule in Kwame Nkrumah's, is it Handbook of Guerrilla Warfare? My memory, I'm getting at that age. We did not get these brothers from revolutionary heaven. No, we didn't. The other thing that's one of the reasons why we have the Black Power Archives at Cal State Northridge, is because there was a movement in Los Angeles regarding local and national issues. When we think about the Black Power movement, we think about Oakland, a bit of Chicago. We think about Fred Hampton. Do we really think about Chicago, or do we think about Fred Hampton? We think about Oakland, we think about New York. We hear Bunchy and John, but do you really think about Los Angeles in terms of all of Los Angeles, not just a couple of individuals? So when Elaine says there were an expectation that women be sexually available for their comrades, there are enough, I'm sure, books out there, we need more, where sisters in some chapters will tell you, that wasn't my experience at all. Even the Angola 3, and this doesn't deal with women per se, but the Angola 3, Herman Wallace, I know his name is Albert. I can't remember Albert's last name. And Robert King Wilkerson. Robert King Wilkerson is the only one still with us. Albert, if he didn't pass this year, he passed last year. Herman Wallace passed a couple of years back. The Angola 3, Angola prison in Louisiana. This was a prison chapter that, if it was not started because of, one of the things it was known for was stopping prisoner rape. It's like, no, that's not going to happen. Not on our watch. And again, these brothers were in for so long. Did they even get a chance to? They never to my knowledge, got a chance to get out and practice the principles of the Black Panther Party that they had internalized in prison on the streets. But that Angola prison chapter of the BPP, they was like, there will be no rape while we are alive. That's not going to happen. Okay. Let's see. Yes. I don't remember talking rape from within, but she does talk about how she was almost raped at 13, but she fought her way out. That's Mama Asada Shakur in her book, how she went over to some young brother's house, and they thought they was going to pull a train on her, and she was like, I will bust up everything in your mama's house. Leave me alone and let me go. And she was able to get out. So now this is pre-BPP, this is pre-BLA, but this is who they were dealing with, right? Blood McCreary, shout out, rest in peace. Ancestor Blood McCreary echoed Asada's take on the women, important grasp of armed self-defense training. I think it was Baba Daruba who said on one of, if it wasn't a BPM show, is I mix what I like. Said Asada could shoot better than most folks. So yeah. Hmm. Skeptical Mantis Channel 10. If I remember correctly, Safia Bukhari wrote about being pressured to sleep with a local Panther leader. She described it as political pimping. I don't remember that one. Hmm. Fire burn them. I agree. Okay, I don't know what you talking about. Hold on. Uh-oh. Shoot out in the comment section. Hmm. Shoot out in the comment section. Yes, so the sun rises in the east. Very, very, very informative film by some a black couple. I believe they attended the school as children. I believe that if they didn't attend the school as children, of course they benefited from the work. And again, not saying that there's a lot going. I don't know what was going on. I know that that was mentioned in the film, and a lot of the troubles, a lot of the troubles that a lot of the organizations had and continue to have started with. Did they start with? They involve polygamy. I just say it like that. So I know, but again, as I said, in this particular film, it was brought up that it was the men who made the decision we should have polygamy, and some of the women was like, "See ya," and at a certain point, that policy was dropped. So okay, Africa House. I'm not familiar with Africa House, or am I? Africa House. Yeah, patriarchy is healthy and inevitable. Yeah, that's a troll. If I knew how to block them, I would. But whatever. So yeah. Yeah, I don't think I can. Where is it at? Whole streams about black oppression, no trolls. Talk about harm to women and they come out the woodwork. Yeah, because one of the reasons why is because it's a sore spot, and it's the kind of the thing. It's the kind of thing that people grasp upon. Ooh, let me get that. What's the wedge? It's a wedge issue. It creates a division, and people look for that to create division. I had I had talked about this was in response to those alphabet people, uh, the ones who are descended from this institution, and as opposed to descended from African people, they're descended from an institution. And I was saying how this was a post I had made back on Twitter. I said, the FBI paid an informant. One day we'll talk about the difference between informant, provocateur, agent. The FBI paid somebody to infiltrate a writer's workshop, and he ended up burning down their new community center, a writer's workshop. He spied on the workshop, not an organization whose publicly expressed aims was political revolution, a writer's workshop. He infiltrated it, spied on it, and he burned down their new building. So my point was, you don't think these folks ain't gonna pay somebody to sit on a computer all day long and type madness? You don't think they're gonna do that? Well, they'll pay somebody to go. Right. That's what these people do. They own the payroll. And one of the things that they're paid to do is look for these wedge issues and amplify them, which is why, anything that's dealing with sexuality or women, because we live in a white supremacist, patriarchal society, heteropatriarchal society. This is a wedge issue. This is why they come out. The problem is that we can't feed the trolls. Stop feeding the troll. I would like to know more about the Black Youth Project rectification process. I would too, because that was back in 2015. So that was, oh Lord, 8 years ago. So yeah, we need an update. Shameless, or should I say unshameless plug. Would you rather us buy the book directly from them instead of Amazon? See, here's the thing. You can support this independent press, which is it's actual people. It's an independent press, but they print on demand. For whatever reason, we didn't catch a lot of the errors in the book, so it's been held up from Amazon for about 3 more weeks. Amazon is disgusting, but everybody would rather not put their credit card all over the world. They already into Amazon. They want to leave it there. I don't, yeah, buy directly from the publisher, but you might get some errors in your book. But then again, you might be able to hold on to it and be worth some money one day. I don't know. But Daraja, Daraja press.com, darajapress.com. You're going to buy a couple of more for your granddaughter. Sugar Booger, you a grandmama? Ooh, let me hush. Hey, Sugar Booger, how are you doing? Who are all these trolls up in here who ain't got nothing to do, who typing from their mama's basement? Because they're not independent brothers with their own place. They at their mama's house or a girlfriend's house. Got the nerve to be talking about women. These are probably some alpha male Kevin Samuel, not rejects. What they hurt because their daddy done died. Kevin Samuels is dead. Anyway. Why do you want to be men? You are stupid. Shut up. uh, Brother Malcolm had said there was exploitation at the time he separated. Probably. Man, okay. You know what? Noble Drew Ali was one of the name. Well, actually, yeah, I think Noble Drew Ali, and Deuce Muhammad. You have to forgive me. My Moorish history is lacking. But yeah, so I was just speaking in terms of the Moorish Science Temple, these predecessor organizations, when we talk about lineage, where people come from. I wasn't saying that they was raping people and stuff like that in the Moorish temple. So before somebody go out here and say that, other than these trolls, that's not what I was saying. Now, I do agree with you that these organizations all believe in the Abrahamic faiths as well. Most of them did. And you know what John Henry Clark said about the Abrahamic faiths? That these are male chauvinist murder cults. Troy James' new book, New Bones Abolition, resonates on the same frequency as our study here and now. Don't forget Dr. York. I wouldn't consider anything Dr. York has engaged in as black liberation. I would consider it a cult. So, yeah. Thank you, Albert Woodfox, Herman Wallace, Albert Woodfox, Robert King Wilkinson, the Angola 3. And Herman didn't live long enough to do a book. There are films out there somewhere, at least one film on the Angola 3. Albert Woodfox did a book, and Robert King Wilkinson did a book. Don't ask me the names. I just know that they out there. Go look them up, y'all. Thank you, Quadro. I appreciate that. Do not take liberties with women. I think this quote was taken straight from Miles' Red Book. In my opinion, this rule is too vague. There should have been a deeper explanation of abuse, consent, coercion. No argument from me, but it was the Red Book, it was the 60s, and many liberation movements took, borrowed, etc. from others, like the Handbook of Revolutionary Warfare by Nkrumah, etc. There's a BPM Discord. If y'all are interested, I can look for the exact citation from Safia Bukhari and post it in the BPM Discord. Well, I'm behind. All right. Mm, mm, mm. One of the Angola 3 talked about being in prison for so long that when he finally got out, he forgot he could open doors himself. He was used to guards opening them for him. Mutulu and Dr. Mutulu Shakur, who passed in July, using a cell phone. Somebody told me, I forget who it was who told me this, but they said when Geronimo Gijaga got out, they were telling him about ATMs, and he was like, you just walk up to the wall and get money out. And they were like, yes. He's like, for real? Yeah. That's what these people do. This is what they have done. Mm. Do you know if that was Mama Fanny's issue with Seshwile? No, I don't know what issue she had with Seshwile. The only thing I remember is that Asada said that she remembers that Afeni said Sekou Odinga was one of, if not the only man she knew who did not abuse women. I want to get her exact quote. I don't want to misquote her. I'm going to say one of the only. I would hate to think that that was the only man, but y'all find her exact quote. So, yeah. Yes, and by those alphabet people, I'm not talking about LGBTQ. I'm talking about Yvette Carnell and them and those pimps. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to tell you what's going to happen. Here we go. See, y'all like to... See, that's the other thing, too. Some of y'all like arguing with these trolls. Anyway. The party had a policy of free love. I called it political pimping. One of the Panthers decided he wanted to sleep with me. I was brought up on charges of refusing to sleep with him. We need the page number. But at any rate, so here's the thing. This is what I want to tell y'all real quick. Because y'all know I be having these issues with the technology. I would love to know how to boot and block these people, but I'm afraid of destroying anything. So what's going to have to happen is, because I've been here going on almost 90 minutes, y'all know Mr. Arthritis be inserting himself into my life, and he knocking at the door. So what that means is I'm going to have to end this. That's one way we'll get rid of the trolls. I just saw Marley Gordon. I really just like when Tiny be on here. I learned so much. So either on I Mix What I Like or RSTV, but would love a combo about the book. I would love a convo too about my book. Uh, y'all just keep commenting. Y'all just keep commenting. All right, so look, I can't keep, I can't, okay, look. So, Black women's responses to violence and harm within Black liberation movements. It's a presentation I gave last year at NCBS, 46th Annual Conference. I was supposed to give it this year at the Black Women's Studies Association um, conference, but wasn't able to attend. So, taking a cue from Dr. Jab, Jared A. Ball, I decided to bring it to y'all here on Black Power Media because I hadn't seen y'all in so long. So, I want to say I'm back. I'm around. Y'all ain't gonna see me weekly. And as you can see, I had scheduled this for 9 a.m. today. I couldn't do it. I was tired. So it's 12 o'clock my time, 3 p.m. y'all time. I don't know what's a good time for y'all. I don't know. So I'm just here. And if you're not here with me live, you can always catch it later on uh, as a replay. But yeah, those are the organizations. Again, publicly available sources. Some of this is still being written. The chapters, the stories are still being written, still being told, and they need to be told so that we can move forward. We're talking about liberation for all of us. How can we move forward with liberation and we're keeping one half or halves, whole segments of our population within a different type of bondage, a different type of oppression? How can we do that? We cannot do that. We're fooling ourselves. We're lying to ourselves. Even worse, we're lying to our people if we do not address these types of issues as we're moving forward. So that's my contribution to attempt to get us to move forward. Appreciate y'all. The hell with you trolls. Please continue to like, continue to share, continue to subscribe. When you subscribe, you're supposed to get a notification saying such and such is coming on to remind you to tune in because it's a lot of madness out here. You don't need to partake of that. Just come on over to the BPM channel and get your full. All right, y'all still over there commenting. Oh, that's right. Y'all ain't really here for me. Y'all are here for yourselves. So I'm gonna go on and stop, and y'all can continue your little party in the comment section. I know how y'all be. I know how y'all be doing. It's all good. But no, appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Thank you so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you so much. I'm not sure what my next show will be, but hey, if you subscribe, you get a notification when it comes, right? All right. So, um, mention books. Folks put things in the chat, and maybe I'll put together a book list, some type of notes for y'all later. We'll see. But as of right now, I'm gonna go on and get out of here. So y'all stay safe. Take care of yourselves, and I'll catch you later. All right. Peace.